Hi guys, this is Vasyl from the B-Dance, and today is podcast number 2 because the goal is to do one podcast per month. So we did one at the end of March and now we are doing one at the end of April. And today the topic is servant leadership and quality of accounting information. That's some of my favorite topics ever. When we talk about servant leadership, the model was developed in the business setting, was developed by Robert Greenleaf. He worked in the AT&T for a long while, and he believed that working for the corporation, you can be an agent for the good in the corporations that have a lot of power in the multi-corporation world right now. So but what he found that a lot of companies had the brutal cutthroat model and the opposite of servant leadership. So he started thinking, what does it mean to be a servant leader in the working as an employee in the company and also as an entrepreneur? So eventually he wrote different pieces on servant leadership, and then his students and people who picked up that philosophy narrowed down servant leadership to 10 factors. So we can write it down for emphasis, because it's better to not only hear it but see it visually. It helps retention. So 10 factors of servant leadership. Number 1 is listening. So it seems a kind of trivial, but actually so important and foundational. So for example, as a consultant for you, if I impose my solution on you without listening your objectives and connecting with your vision, what you're trying to accomplish, how you connect emotionally with your vision, if I impose my vision on you, it's not gonna work. You will see that it's like, who does this jerk think he is, that he's gonna tell me what to do? See, I am here for you to solve your problem and the way, and help you reach your vision. And if I'm not listening, I mean, it's a futile exercise. So listening seems trivial, but actually very foundational. Whether we have the ability to listen, that's why I know people say we have two ears and only one mouth. So then the second point is empathy. Empathy is ability to put ourselves in another person's shoes and really understand how that person may feel in that scenario. So if I can feel your pain, or imagine how you feel being constrained by the tax problem, I'll be more effective in helping you because I can relate to you more. I feel empathy, and that motivates you to help you better because I attempt to put myself in your shoes. Then third point is awareness. Awareness, it's self-awareness and awareness of the situation, so that I know what's going on around me, how I'm being perceived, and whether I'm being effective in my communication, and perhaps I should make some change or alter something. So the Scottish author Bernard Shaw said that he prays that God gives us the ability to see ourselves from the side, from the eyes of others. And it's difficult, it's very difficult, because we tend to be so consumed by what we want to say and the point we want to make, that, I mean, we would be kind of paranoid to think all the time, oh, how I'm being assessed, because we won't be effective in our delivery and communication. But having a healthy dose of awareness, keeping it in the background, not as the main point, and be paranoid, oh, what people think of me, but keep it in mind in the background. Well, am I being effective? Maybe I should adjust something. Having that awareness about you. Then number 4 is healing. And I think in the actual system, he has healing first. So I make a little arrow here that in the actual model, he actually puts healing as number 3, so I kind of got 3 and 4 mixed up here. But healing, we talk about healing here, and what he means by that is when I really try to understand another person, can I say something constructive and useful and encouraging? Essentially, I have a choice to have an enlarging attitude or diminishing attitude and effect on this person. So essentially he's saying, once I try to put myself in this person's shoes, I listen carefully, I attempt to have empathy for the person and have awareness, can I say something encouraging to this person that will speak to this person's life and motivate this person to get going in life and solve and tackle different challenges and contribute to the person's wholeness and help that person be a more well-rounded, integrated person in life. We don't have to make it super lofty. Just practical things such as encouraging somebody. Am I one of the people in this person's life that it serves as a positive influence? Doesn't mean that we're going to heal person of all ailments or situations, but do we serve as a positive influence? So essentially, having the contribute to that healing effect on this particular person. Then number 5 is persuasion. It's servant leaders have the gift of persuasion, meaning that they know a situation and they don't have only knowledge, they have experiential knowledge about a situation. They know the aftermath and effects, and they use that not to delude you into something as some salesman can do, but persuade you in a way to help you understand why the solution is necessary, what solution is right for you, and to persuade me and motivate you to actually take that action, to take that next step towards making your life better. So don't take it as persuade, because some people say, oh, persuade, he must buy this. They push it in a person. That's not persuasion. That's high sales. That's high pressure sales. So we don't talk about that. Talk about persuasion, about truly understanding a person's situation and nudging a person to take the step towards solving that predicament in their life. Then number 6 is conceptualization. Conceptualization. So that's the ability to see a big picture. And Greenleaf says that leaders should have the ability to see a big picture, but also understand how to implement it tactically. Because sometimes you may know the big picture, but you need a team to help you execute all of the details, because unless it's a small project, you can execute it on your own, but usually you need to have a good team to execute the operations, to be agile, to be agile in executing the operations. So big picture, to take 30,000 feet view, but also breaking down to the points where you can execute the tactics and have agility in your operations. Number 7 is foresight. Number 7 is foresight. And Greenleaf says if somebody can predict the outcome or consequences and yet doesn't take action to prevent or remediate those consequences, he calls it moral failure. Because he says if you're a leader and you can predict, you see the trajectory, you see where it's going, but you don't take action about that, it's a moral failure of a leader. And I would really like to zone in on this actual, let's use a different color to make it stand out. I really want to zone in on this number 7, foresight, because it's super important for tax resolution too. So if I can predict, if as a tax expert, I can predict and I can tell you what will happen with penalties and interest if you don't take care of your case, but I let you walk away and not do anything about this problem, I don't at least try to explain to you, look, you can walk away. I mean, nobody's going to force you to take an action. But before you do so, I want to understand the full range of consequences of not taking an action, all the penalties, interest. The problem is just going to expand exponentially, become bigger and bigger in your life. So you see, if I having the knowledge and experiential knowledge with these tax cases, and I don't tell you what happens, that's a moral failure on my part. And I also thought, like I will talk later about the quality of accounting information, and one of the elements is predictive value. So accounting information is valuable if we can use it for predicting the future. It has some sort of predictive value for us. We can say, okay, I can see the trend. Of course, we cannot perfectly predict the future, but having some sort of predictive value. And you know what case I thought? COVID-19. So remember, like when on the radios we heard the reports in December 2018 that people are dying in China. There is a huge problem in China. And I remember listening even as early as January 2020 that people's body are being burned is such a big problem. But you see, for some reason I didn't connect the dots that it's going to come here very soon too. You see, in hindsight, I should have thought, well, if it's happening in China, then surely enough, somebody will come with the airplane, bring it to other countries. But like, I totally didn't think of that. So you see, it's good to challenge ourselves to hone the predictive value and to see the trajectory better. So we can say, okay, if this is happening now, what is going to happen next? Challenge ourselves to see the trajectory. I mean, trajectory is a physics term. So we are throwing the ball and the line according to which that ball flies into the basket. So say I throw the ball from this point and it follows this line. It's a trajectory. So I see, if I am at the base point, then the problem is not that big. But if it's about I'm already here at this point in my trajectory, it's already moved quite a bit. So one of my roles as a tax advisor is to assess your situation. What the collection statutes, where you are in the process, what does the IRS claim you owe, reviewing transcripts, seeing what part of the trajectory you're on. And once we identify the specific point, then we can think of the solution together. But until we know where we are on the trajectory, where it's moving and how it's moving in that trajectory line, we don't know what we're talking about here. So, it's like Archimedes. Archimedes said, give me the initial point, the starting point, and I can overturn the world. So you see, I mean, the point is, what's the starting point? What are we talking about? Where are we at in the process? So that's foresight, super important. That's why I highlighted it in red. Then the 8th point is stewardship. So it's stewarding our resources well. And it's when we talk about tax resolution in context of tax resolution. So if we have resources, resources in life, like if God entrusted these resources to us, and we know the biblical concept of stewardship, also John Locke talks about stewardship a lot. We were entrusted with these resources. So that's your income generating ability. And think about it. If you have an unsolved tax case, you're wasting so much resources, because if the IRS garnishes your paycheck, or you have to make continuous payment, rather than steward them and multiply it and use them for your family, for stewarding and multiplying it, you're draining a lot of those resources. So it's like that statement, like pissing against the wind, really. So stewarding those resources. And then number 9 is is commitment to the growth of people. So essentially the question is it just about me, or whatever am I doing, do I help other people to grow? People I work with on my team, people I serve as my clients, am I committed to the growth of people? And Robert Greenleaf says that the fundamental test of the servant leadership is whether the people in the community benefit from what I am doing, or at least not get further deprived. I actually say correctly again, because in the beginning part I omitted whether the least privileged members of the society benefit, or at least don't get further deprived. So he called it, that's the true test of servant leadership. So if it's all just about me, about making profit, then it's not true commitment to the growth of people. Because usually if you like what you do and you're passionate and you're serving the community, you provide valuable services, profit is a byproduct out of providing valuable services, passionate what you do, and being committed to the growth of people, be it people you work on your teams or clients that you serve. And then the final point, number 10, is commitment to the growth of communities. To the growth of communities. So he takes it a step further. So he says, yes, first we talk about people, more micro level, people you work with in your teams or clients you serve. So that's here people, here he takes it micro level. And then he takes it a step further and say commitment to the growth of the community. That community where I live in, does it benefit me from living there? Or I'm just a burden, or just not really contributing anything. So you see, then, am I committed to the growth of communities, especially community where I live, work, go to church to? Commitment to the growth of the communities, and it ties back with that test, whether the least members of the society benefit, or at least don't get further deprived. So that's the servant leadership framework, the 10 elements that we are discussing here. So now I'd like to make a connection with the quality of accounting information, and that was my favorite. Topic. That was my favorite topic at school, the quality of accounting information, because it's so. And you may think, what does quality of accounting information topic has to do with tax resolution? So we'll see in a moment how it ties. So there are two fundamental elements when we talk about quality of accounting information. So here I write quality of accounting information. So there are two elements. The first one is relevance. And the second one is reliability. Reliability, also known as representational faithfulness. So the first question is this information relevant? So when I work with you, we need to narrow down the relevant information for your case. And the second is it should faithfully represent your particular situation, not embellishing it or things that don't belong there, but truly representing your case. So when the IRS needs to assess your assets and your disposable income to calculate the realizable cash potential that you can pay for your liability, we need to be faithfully representing the facts and circumstances, represent the underlying reality. So when we break it down, each of those two components further, relevance has two factors. First is confirmatory value. Because we need to be able to confirm or corroborate the reality of your situation. And then the second one is predictive value. And we touched on that in my prior discussion of servant leadership. Predictive value. So we talked about that a minute ago when I highlighted Foresight. So when you look, you remember when I highlighted Foresight, we were talking about predictive value and predicting and connecting the dots with the Chinese COVID crisis to the global impact. Having predictive value, so if you take certain data points, then let's look at predictive value. What does it tell us of the trend? So like of your trend as a taxpayer, what does it tell you about your current situation asset-wise and disposable income-wise? So looking at the trajectory, predictive value. So that's relevance, the first component of quality of accounting information. The second main component, reliability or representational faithfulness, consists of three further subcomponents. So the first one, the question is whether the information is complete. So the question is whether information is complete. Then is it free from error? Is it free from error? Meaning, in other words, to say it, is it accurate? And the third one, is it neutral? Meaning, is it neutral and non-biased? Are you trying you're trying to hide a certain relevant piece, or is it truly neutral or free from bias? That's another way to call it. Free from bias. And I think if you look at the quality of accounting information fundamentally, it goes back to the GIGO principle in information technology. Garbage in, garbage out. So if you feed wrong information to the system, it will spit out the wrong conclusion. So we got to make sure we got all the facts and circumstances right. Because in tax work, it's very facts and circumstances specific. So the most favorite answer in taxation, it depends. You ask me a question, it depends on context, on the situation. So it's very facts and circumstances analysis specific. Each case is different. What are the facts? What are the circumstances? I don't know. We have to look at your facts and circumstances, apply the tax law, the regulations, figure it out. So that's two main factors of quality of accounting information, relevance and reliability. That's two fundamental characteristics of accounting information. Then there are four enhancing qualities. So enhancing qualities, I like using red for this one because it for enhancing, like to really enhance a black and white picture here with red. So enhancing characteristics. So there are four of them. The first one is comparability. Comparability. So you probably remember that from your tax return. If you look at your tax return prepared by your tax preparer, usually it has two columns. Column one is your tax information and tax numbers for the prior years. The current column is for the current years, and then it shows the differences, plus or minuses if the value increased or decreased. So just having the comparability, because if we're gonna modify something, and change one variable, and it becomes not apples to apples or orange to oranges, it will be hard to compare period to period. So we need to make sure the information is easily comparable. We can say, okay, that's for the last year, this is for this year, but we compare, make sure it's apples to apples. It's not like unrelated comparisons, but it's apples to apples comparisons. So comparability. The second one is verifiability. So can it be verified? Verifiability. Well, how do we verify it? So you produce some numbers. How do we verify it? Well, bank statements for one. So we need to have some source records. So if the IRS asks you, where did you get the numbers? I mean, did you just write it down? Is it an estimate? And sometimes we have to use estimates, but we have to disclose it to the IRS. It was an estimate and not a precise figure. But like we talk about the underlying records, bank statements, the invoices, proof of your transactions. So is the information verifiable? Can you show the proof to the IRS? Verification, corroboration of these transactions. Then the next value is timeliness. And timeliness is super important in tax resolution, because we talked about, remember we talked about the trajectory line. It depends what line on the trajectory, what point in the trajectory line you're in. The further you catch it and address it, the better. And the sooner you provide the information to me as your tax representative, the better and the quicker we can solve it. Prevent accumulation of the problem. Exercising the foresight. So that's timeliness, super important. Timeliness, it's, as we say in many things, it's about timing. It's about the right timing. And the final one, it's understandability. Understandability. Meaning, is that information easily understandable? Understandability. Some companies like Enron, in Enron scandals, they had like their disclosure notes were crazy. They had like super complicated terms, but really it was fluff. It was water. So if you cannot explain it to a 6-year-old in regular, easily to understand terms, maybe you're hiding something behind all the fluff. It's like the guy in Enron came up with the hypothetical value accounting, HVA, and it sounds fancy, but really it meant made up values. He made up those numbers. He called it, it's a hypothetical value accounting. Oh, how smart. What a smart guy, like he can use such fancy terms. So we got to be careful with that, because again, if we cannot explain it to a 6-year-old, why are we using such complicated terms? If I'm working with my client, why am I confusing the client? If I work with the IRS, I can use terminology, or if I work with my colleague. But otherwise, what's the point? Like, am I trying to say I'm so smart? Then is it for me, for my ego, or am I really working to help you and really explain it the way that's understandable? And then when you provide information, let's make sure we provide it in the understandable way to the IRS, because IRS officers, revenue officers are going to look at that. Do we make sure we provide it in such a way in the format it's easily understandable? Because the more understandable it is, the quicker revenue officer will be able to review it. If there is an appeal, then there will be subsequent review levels, because 90% of all offers in compromise are rejected on the first level of review and only settled on the second level of review. So you see, we got to keep in mind, multiple people are going to look at our presentation. Is it easily understandable? So that's the framework of the accounting information. And then we have two additional overarching factors. So overarching factors here are materiality, and cost-benefit analysis. Cost-benefit analysis. So in accounting, we need to ask yourself a question: if this figure, is it material? I remember when I just started working in accounting, I was like trying like to compute something to the penny because I thought I must be so thorough and all. And my manager came. He's like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "I'm trying to compute it to the penny." And he's like, "In the grand scheme of things, it doesn't matter. I mean, we need to have accurate figure, but you don't have to make it super precise. It's immaterial. It's irrelevant. We just need to get enough information to solve the case, not just necessarily to the penny if it's not material." So if it's, we talk about, that's why when you see on the tax returns other miscellaneous expense, if you have like 100,000 in revenue and your other miscellaneous expense is 1K because you lumped something together rather than breaking down freight or like supplies, but it's like together, well, it's okay in that scenario. It's within materiality. So like how big is the overall figure of revenue in this case? And then other miscellaneous expense, if up to 1,000, but we start seeing 2,000 and the examiner, IRS examiner looks at it, is like, are they hiding something? They call it other miscellaneous expense. What kind of expense? So we see, what's materiality here? Is it like significant amount, and how significant? So it's like, so Germans say in accounting, they say two questions in accounting. The first one is like, was ist das? What is this? And the second one is wie hoch? How high it is? How high is the figure? So like that question has to do, okay, what are we talking? We're talking about pennies. So in this case, it's immaterial. We may be wasting time, which leads to the second point, cost-benefit analysis. Is it worth it? We may spend so much time on getting you some super precise figure, but it doesn't provide much benefit here. So likewise, when I work on the case for you, the goal is to make sure that the value you get out of the case, tax resolution, much exceeds what you're paying me as a professional. Otherwise, it doesn't pass cost-benefit analysis. There is no point of you in doing that. So that's the materiality and cost-benefit analysis. So that's the things I wanted to discuss with you guys. If you like the video, please like it, and let's keep this podcast rolling once a month here. And enjoyed chatting with you today. Have a great day.